Let's call this meeting to order and go to the plane of the acknowledgement of the traditional lands, please.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Perfect. So what we have in front of us is the agenda for the evening. I'd like Susan Benjamin on the floor and Trustee Clark, Jeff Clark online to second that. All in favor of the agenda, so be it passed. We'll move to the next item, declaration of conflict of interest. Anyone have any conflicts? Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from last governance meeting on May 21st. So I'll have Trustee Jeff Clark put it on the floor. Seconded by Trustee Elves online. All those in favor, or before we do that, any questions or comments about the committee meeting minutes? Seeing those, all those in favor? So be passed. We're now going to move on to our next item. So we have a delegation for us tonight. And before we start, I have online a student who's going to be delegating. And I'm sorry, I must apologize. I was up really early this morning to fly in from Calgary, so I'm a little flustered. I don't think I sat down since beginning here. But anyway, we have a delegation, so we're going to go through that. But before I start, I just want to talk to Gabriella online that, thank you very much for your delegation. At our Peel District School Board, we highly value input from students, parents, and the community. Delegations are a crucial part of our engagement process. And as outlined in our recent strategic plan, community engagement is one of the 4 primary goals that we have. So tonight you have 10 minutes to speak. According to our governance directors, please ensure your remarks are respectful and professional. Offensive language or negative personal references about any individual will be ruled out of order. After your 10 minutes and your remarks, I will then ask trustees to ask any questions of clarification they may have. And then after that, we'll conclude the delegation for you. So I'll turn the floor over to you and you may begin.
Thank you so much. So, hello, my name is Gabriella, and I'm a 17-year-old in Mississauga. I was raised a progressive and reformed Jew, acutely aware of the struggles of the Jewish people and other marginalized groups. I'm also Hispanic from many countries, including from the Middle East, as my great-grandparents were persecuted for being Jewish. I'm also a first-generation immigrant. This intersectionality was a large part of my early years. As I explored my identity within the Peel classroom, I hit some snags, if you will. I was never enough for a group. Not Hispanic enough because my first language isn't Spanish. Not mixed enough as my skin color is too close to white. Or too mixed as someone couldn't possibly be from so many countries. This intersectionality clouded people's perception of me. Too much, too little, not enough, too loud, and never recognized. Additionally, I was often told that I needed to check my privilege as my skin color is white. So I searched and found myself identifying as Jewish when asked the question, what are you? My answer is Jewish. Being Jewish is my religion, my people, and my nationality. Being Jewish makes me indigenous to Israel. It ties perfectly into the question, what are you? As being Jewish makes so many parts of my intersecting identity come together. I'm mixed because I am persecuted and an immigrant once again due to persecution. I've come here today not to talk about who I am, but what I stand for. I stand for democracy, human rights, and a safe space for everyone. I stand for nuanced discussion, learning the curriculum, and a school free of discrimination. I stand for these things not because they have been afforded to me. I stand for them as they have been repeatedly ignored and denied from me. I wish to provide you some context on indigeneity. First, I would like to acknowledge the indigenous people of the land on which I speak today, the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee. I say miigwech. I would also like to acknowledge my indigeneity. I am a Jewish person, a descendant of the 12 tribes of Judea, indigenous to the region of Israel or Judea. My indigeneity is not up for discussion. As proven by archaeological evidence, we are the Jews, Yehuda, or the people of Judea, and indigenous to the land of Israel. The Hebrews, the Jewish people, and Jerusalem are mentioned in every single monotheistic religious holy book. In the Quran, we are referred to as the children of Israel over 40 times. In Christian scriptures, the Jewish people are referred to as the keeper of Jerusalem, described as the villagers and the people of the land. Our relationship to one another and to our indigenous homeland is written in our genetic code according to recent genetic research. Furthermore, according to the UN, common ancestry and a shared cultural connection constitute indigeneity. Frequently, there's accusations that Jews are occupying the land of Israel. The words Zionism and Zionist are used instead of the words Jew or Jewish. This is in direct contradiction to Jewish indigeneity to the land of Israel, as Zionism is solely the return of the Jewish people to their indigenous homeland. In no way am I going and challenging the Palestinian identity. I refuse for these words to be construed as such. What I will say is that the proposed anti-Palestinian racism strategy opposes my indigeneity. The opposition is unconstitutional and a direct violation of your policies below. Let me begin by examining Policy 48, Safe and Caring Schools, which states to meet the needs of students, respect differences, prioritize student well-being, and provide opportunities for all students to succeed. Additional learning and working environments should be free of any negative factors. This policy states that it is in compliance with federal, provincial law, as well as PDSB's other policies. The policy requires inclusive schools, a lack of discriminatory or hurtful speech, and states that immediate action must be taken in accordance with progressive discipline strategies. However, this policy is not being followed in the Peel Board. For example, it was in early April when I was sitting in my biology class and overheard a large group of students, yes, my peers in front of me, saying, "I hate Jews, I don't want them in the school, I want them all dead, and all Jews in Israel are the same." I then had to go and write a chemistry unit test, feeling extremely vulnerable, scared, and targeted. While I could have reported after the test, the information was later shared with my principal, but I didn't feel safe reporting. As the limited number of Jewish students in my school, there was no way to ensure my safety. These students identified as allies to the Palestinian community, my sharing of my fear would be deemed anti-Palestinian racism from the APR's definition, right in relation to the occupied and historic Palestine. So had I reported this action, it could have been deemed racism, even though I was the one being targeted. Another example dates back to last spring, where Jewish voices were never consulted in my school. Flags of different countries were on display for Culture Week. An Israeli flag was ripped down, originally deemed anti-Semitism. Later, that statement was retracted and deemed an act of political protest. How can I feel safe knowing that Israel is deemed an act of political protest? Am I to conclude that I can be a target of political protest too, as clearly a country, a part of my identity, cannot seem to exist? Should I cease to exist? Additionally, I argue that APR, discussed in previous board meetings, goes against Policy 48, Safe and Caring Schools. APR violates these policies as it doesn't allow for discussion where Jews and their allies could voice their opinions and understanding of the history, including Jewish indigeneity to the land of Israel. It doesn't permit for discussions where there may be differing opinions, nuances in the context of the conflict in the Middle East, or the support for a democratic and Jewish state in the region of Israel. Any of the above statements would be deemed to be in violation of APR under the new definition. It is critical that we use policies within the Peel Board to create an education system that allows for these nuanced conversations, where I am free to share my identity without being deemed racist. Let's take a look at Policy 51, Human Rights and Responsibilities, which is grounded in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Ontario Human Rights Code. PSB has repeatedly violated these policies too. The policy states that a person cannot engage in hate propaganda and other forms of behavior motivated by hate or bias. It must honor the rights of others by refraining from actions motivated by hate, prejudice, bias, or against any identifiable group, such as wearing hate or racist symbols, distributing hate information, or producing hate-related vandalism. In addition, dresses or logos that demean or threaten an identifiable group or people are prohibited. Working under this policy, as well as IHRA's definition of human rights, there have been almost daily infringements of this human rights policy in Peel. Some notable examples are maps showing the current border of Israel and the colors of the Palestinian flag, or keffiyehs. Keffiyehs are seen everywhere in Peel schools. While the keffiyeh is a pattern of indigeneity to the Middle East and has been worn by people of Middle Eastern descent, including Middle Eastern Jews, for the last 60 years or so, it's been tied to individuals who are calling for and committing crimes against Jews, Israelis, and Israel alike. On October 7th, I sat in a bomb shelter in Jerusalem. I saw on TV the many individuals streaming in from Gaza wearing keffiyehs. They were used to cover their faces and hide their identity. This item is no longer neutral for me and many other Jews. Instead, it is tied to the ongoing killing of Jews. Slogans such as "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be Jew-free," "We call for Jewish genocide," "All the Zionists are racist," and "Jews are killing babies" are only some personal examples seen on t-shirts, jewelry, during protests, on posters in schools, social media handles, including Peel school names, and echoed throughout school hallways. Currently, there's been limited to no repercussions for students and staff who wear these hurtful messages or say these hurtful things. However, if APR were to be implemented, these hateful anti-Semitic statements could not be challenged. Statements that call for my death, for the violence against me, and blood libels, as well as the erasure of my history, could not be challenged. Palestinians and their allies defined anti-Palestinian racism. Jews have been trying to make sure that a definition of anti-Semitism exists. Within the Jewish community, the most agreed upon is the IHRA definition. This is often argued by non-Jewish people as being inappropriate, and it's often why it's not applied. The APR directly contradicts the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, defaming Israel, Israelis, Jewish people, and their supporters, and it would be allowed, encouraged, and taught in our classrooms. The final policy I will be referencing is Policy 78, Digital Citizenship. This policy states that all devices, personal or not, must be in accordance with board policy. The use of technology must promote inclusion, respect, and dignity for all. Field digital citizenship policies have been violated consistently by students, teachers, and community groups. Allow me to elaborate. A previous PDSB student named Hamdi Abbas, a delegate at the last board meeting, can be seen quoting Ghassan Kanafani, the leader of the Popular Front of the Liberation of Palestine and the one held responsible for the Lord, currently the airport in Tel Aviv's airport massacre. Additionally, he says, quote, "I wouldn't blame Hitler for what he did. If Israel is right, that would make Hitler right. I actually don't give a swears who you are if you support Israel." Swears again. Enemies. We only hate Zionists, those inappropriate names for women. I would never hate anyone except Zionists. I was born with my hate for them. And no rational Palestinian will ever accept a Jewish state. I ask you now, does that sound like he complied with policy? Not only did he delegate here at a trustee meeting, but some of the pros from his time are from his students. And given that they are not removed, are we to assume that no action was taken about them? Social media accounts by Peel students, MSAs, and associated Palestinian groups, and accounts that have Peel schools' names currently say things like "Israel doesn't exist," "Jews don't exist here," "Intifada revolution," "Land you have to kill for isn't yours," and more. These statements have been glossed over, deemed freedom of speech, civil liberty, or simply pro-humanity. What is clearly a violation of Policy 48 and 78, as well as a violation of both provincial and federal laws, is intended to demoralize Jewish students and threaten their physical and emotional health, has been allowed to exist within the Peel Board with no attempt to remove or limit it. Furthermore, given the IHRA definition is part of Canadian and Ontario law, the direct denial of Israel, which is seen in language on social media, is direct violation of human rights. Why is it that these digital statements are not being addressed? There are violations of human rights, and they must be treated as such. As one of the largest school boards in Canada with a very diverse population, PDSB must ensure compliance with their own policies and directives, as well as all applicable federal and provincial laws. If the Peel Board were to implement APR, they would be in direct violation of human rights and anti-discriminatory laws of the Ontario government, the Criminal Code of Canada, as well as their own personal policies. You have a civic and legal responsibility to respond to these incidents. You have a responsibility to comply with the Charter of Laws and respond to these incidents, including the appropriate disciplinary measures of the school and police where actions constitute criminal behavior. I ask for the immediate action on remedying digital posts, including but not limited to investigating individuals, students, staff, and groups that have made these statements. Additionally, the adoption of the IHRA policy on anti-Semitism, as is your legal responsibility to do so, a full investigation of APR. Its
Gabrielle, are you near finishing? You're over your 10 minutes.
Last paragraph.
Can you make it one sentence, please?
Yeah. All right. We must find a way to ensure that Palestinian identity can be celebrated without erasing Jewish identity.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What we're going to turn it over to trustees. Does any trustee have a question of clarification for Gabrielle's delegation tonight? Seeing none, do I have someone put on the floor a motion to receive the delegation? Trustee Benjamin, followed by trustee Clark. All those in favor? So passed. Thank you very much for the delegation, and I appreciate the time that you've taken to bring your words to us. We'll now just let people know, Lucas, who joined us from Portugal, he's going to be stopping off, and Satpal is joined online and will be carrying on for David's on as well. So we now have more than quorum. Super quorum. So thank you, Satpal and David, for joining us. It's much appreciated. So we have a busy night tonight. We have 9 staff reports. 6 of them we're going to include recommendations, and the last 3 will be for information only. So we're going to start with the first one, the advertisement of goods or services policy, which will be presented by, I assume, Wendy Dobson. Yes, okay. So the controller, Wendy Dobson, your floor is yours with your policy.
Thank you. And through you, Chair McDonald, good evening, everyone. In your package this evening is the advertisements good or services policy. The highlights of this report are the advertisement goods and services policy was reviewed by PDSB staff. The policy is no longer consistent with the Peel procurement policy, the BPS procurement directive, and applicable trade agreements governing board procurement. The policy is also redundant due to existing operational procedures, procurement regulations. Staff are recommending the advertisements good or services policy to be repealed, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
So let's put this on the floor. I'm going to have trustee Satpal put it on the floor and seconded by trustee Green. Now that it's on the floor, does anyone have any questions or comments for this policy to be repealed? Seeing none, all those in favor of the repeal of this policy? So passed. So we'll move on to our next item, 7.2. So this is the occupational health and safety policy for 2024. And who will be presenting this? Okay, we have Mastuma in the back going through this policy. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair McDonald, and good evening, everyone. The recommended proposal for the health and safety policy is primarily an update to the policy as opposed to presenting a new policy to you all. The health and safety policy is a requirement for all employers in Ontario. It must be reviewed annually as part of the Act. In accordance with the PDSB's policy development and review framework, this policy has been reviewed and revised with a human rights, equity, diversity, inclusion lens and framework. The addition of the recommendation is this policy expresses the PDSB's commitment to providing and maintaining safe and healthy environments conducive to learning and working for all. This policy fulfills the PDSB's legal requirements to have the Ontario Health and Safety Policy, as well as Workplace Violence Prevention Policy and Workplace Harassment Prevention Policy. In 2024, the policy has been updated to comply with the recommendations as per the Employment Systems Review Report, with the addition of subsection 5C on page 7 of 12 of the policy. With that concludes my remarks. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. We'll put this on the floor. So trustee Benjamin, put this on the floor. Trustee Clark will second that. Do we have any questions or comments about this modified policy? Seeing none, all those in favor of this policy? So be approved. We'll go on to 7.3. So this is the fundraising policy update. And who's going to be present? There we go. Our acting legal counsel will be presenting that. Please proceed.
Through you, Chair McDonald. Thank you for the opportunity to present the updated fundraising policy. This policy was revised to align with the Ministry of Education's school fundraising guidelines and to establish principles for all fundraising activities within the PDSB. Fundraising is a vital activity that supports many of the school programs and initiatives. The goal of the policy is to ensure that these activities are not only compliant with the latest ministry guidelines, but also reflects the board's commitment to ethical and transparent operations. The policy reinforces that fundraising should complement, not replace, public funding for education. This ensures that essential educational needs are met through provincial funding, while fundraising can provide additional resources to enhance the student experience. The policy emphasizes voluntary participation and the creation of a safe environment for all involved. The policy introduces mechanisms for financial reporting and oversight at both the school and board levels, ensuring that the funds are tracked and used according to their intended purpose. The policy promotes fairness across all schools. Recognizing that not all schools have the same fundraising capacity, the policy encourages schools to assist one another, promoting inclusivity and preventing disparities within the community. The policy also addresses the roles and responsibilities of school principals and school councils in order to enhance coordination and management of fundraising activities. Effective fundraising allows the board to provide students with additional resources, experiences, and learning opportunities that might otherwise be unavailable due to budget constraints. By approving this updated policy, it will provide clear guidelines to school leaders, ensuring that all fundraising activities are conducted responsibly and with full accountability. The revision of this policy involved extensive consultation with internal departments, the school council, the Parent Involvement Committee, and a review of other school board policies, ensuring it meets the board's community needs and legal requirements. Joining me is Tanya Alatisha Charles, Controller Finance Support Services, who can provide further insights into the specifics of this policy. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Through the chair, I'm just happy to take any questions.
Oh, take any questions. Good. So, okay, team. So let's put this on the floor. Trustee Clark, would you put that on the floor? Yes, Trustee Benjamin will second that. Do we have any questions or comments? And I think I have a hand there with Leanne Cole. Please, Leanne, what's your question?
So my only question is, and this came up 2 days ago when I was visiting with a friend, but she was wondering, her company is offering hundreds of MacBooks and computers to a school board. They tried with Oakville and Oakville said no. The computers are only about 1 to 2 years old. So she was asking me if the school board would like pretty much brand new computers used previously by employees, but they always have to have the newest, best things. So, and they're really just trashing these computers in the garbage. So we're wondering if our board would take them. Oakville said no, but we're wondering if the Peel board would say yes.
Through you, Chair. So absolutely, we do take donations, and part of the policy is to consult with the relevant department. In this case, it would be with LTSS, and they would review the specifications and so forth and where the need is. But we do different types of donated items. Even if it's not fundraising, that's more under the donation type of policy. But absolutely.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Trustee Benjamin.
Thank you. And through the chair, regarding the fundraising opportunities available in the board. We always, our students go for various competitions. They win these competitions and we are very proud of their achievements. So recently there's a school now which has won competition. I think it's connected to STEM and coding, and they invented something, and now they have been invited to participate in a competition in Italy. And there are 4 students, and of course, maybe the student, I don't know what the arrangement is, but I'm the trustee for that ward, and they have appealed to me. I have no idea from where I can get this $25,000, which would include everything. So can you explain like how it works, or whether it's possible, or we would have to go to appeal to outside parties to help them out?
Through you, Chair. So So in terms of fundraising, so if they wanted to fundraise, so again, schools may look at and see whether for an event or for an activity they want to fundraise. And so as long as they make the intent of the fundraising clear, so for example, in this case, if they wanted to fundraise in their community and they were to indicate that it's for this purpose, they can certainly set up that type of fundraising. But also the school can look at other areas in the board that might align with what they're doing. They could appeal to their superintendent potentially and things like that as well. So, but in terms of fundraising specifically, fundraising is really, we have to fundraise with a specific purpose. And when we're doing that fundraising, we must tell donors what that purpose is, right? So in this case, it would be for that particular.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, school board has already been, we have already approached the superintendent and AD or associate director also. And I think something may come from there. However, let's try and see what we can do. The other question that I had is about equitable opportunities. That is 4.2 in your report. And it says that schools are encouraged to assist other schools whenever possible and deemed appropriate by the school community. And this refers to those schools who cannot raise funds compared to some schools who have the ability to raise any amount of funds, considering the demographics where they are located in. So is this allowed, like a school which comes from maybe a low income neighborhood, can be appealed to other schools, or it goes through the superintendent?
So through your chair. So again, fundraising can be done. So again, if a school is in a more affluent neighborhood, or it could also be just that they're more apt to fundraise in that community. So whatever the case might be, they could potentially, if they were aware of a need of another school, fundraise and say, like, we're doing this fundraising, but part of the proceeds will be to support, say, our sister school or another school. But again, whenever we're fundraising, we have to make sure that the donors are aware that it's not going to, like, what the purposes are. So for example, one school cannot fundraise and the donors think it's for them, and then all of a sudden give the money to another school. So during the fundraising itself, they have to be clear what the purpose is. So, and that holds for if they want to fundraise on behalf of another school, give some proceeds to that, or sometimes they may be doing smaller fundraising within their school, but sometimes, again, some students may not be able to afford something where other parents pay. So again, they could, when they're fundraising, say the funds are going to this, and to support some students, they would name the students, but they would say it may support some students that wouldn't be able to go otherwise, or for whatever that. So again, as long as the donors are aware and confidentiality is kept, of course, then they can do either to support other students or to assist other schools, but they have to be upfront when they're doing that.
Okay. Thank you. And one last question is regarding the provision of receipts. Now, there are sometimes organizations which appeal to us. Like in my ward, we have the Morton Black Development Association. So they ask for donations to scholarships. So we use our discretionary funds. Sometimes it's schools, principals. But what I noticed was that there is some confusion about the receipts that are given to us, because it's not our money, but we use our discretionary funds. So what kind of a receipt has to be given? I assume that principals and office managers, I think they would know about it. But right now we are in the middle of graduation season, and I am getting a lot of conflicted views about receipts that has to be submitted.
Through you, Chair. So I'm just trying to understand the question. So I think one of the items I heard is if you are trying to contribute to another organization.
No, that is fine. It's about the schools.
So you're trying to contribute to
say an award to a student during graduation.
So through you, Chair. So again, all the monies that we get are board funds. So they come from the ministry, and ministry has very specific criteria about what we can use funds for. In cases where you are contributing to an award for a school, that's more of a budget transfer, right? Because we're kind of one entity. right? So generally that's, you would indicate that you want to allocate some of your funds rather than to go to the school for this award versus that. So the school would not be issuing you a receipt because we're one entity. So if there's any confusion, then, that you can come to the finance department and we can help navigate that. But because we're one organization, we wouldn't give receipts to a school and they can give us receipts of that kind. But generally it's called a budget transfer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Trustee Davies.
I think I'm 99% sure that Trustee Cole's question answered this for me, but I have a situation at a school where they want to fundraise by selling ice cream bars and freezies. Someone brought in a freezer. They want to donate that freezer to the school and leave it there, mainly because they don't want to let it take it. Are we okay with that? Is that just in case, because this is to do with food, stuff like that?
Through Chair, and I think part of what I mentioned before is that depending on what the donated item is, so again, in that case, I would suggest that you talk to facilities and the facility manager, because again, in terms of, where it's located in the school, the power it's drawing, is there any safety issues? So we do take donations, but we really want to make sure from a safety perspective on what it is. And so sometimes it may not be compatible to what the needs of the school are and the maintenance that might be required and so forth. So I would suggest they check with their facilities manager if it's an item that's going to reside at the school. And the other question is, again, do they want a donation receipt? So again, that if they require a donation receipt, there's another process where so if it's just about can the school keep it, it'll be really about safety and other things at the school maintenance and so forth.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you. I've seen no other questions. So I'll ask, so it's hot out. And every year, sometimes we get contacted by parents who want to fundraise for air conditioning.
So through Chair,
We're showing the record.
yeah. So through Chair, so very similar to the other response, and Associate Director Gill can chime in as well. But again, we would always look at the same kind of things, like in terms of the school's infrastructure, and so any kind of things would obviously need to be consulted through the facilities manager and all those things, just because of those kind of items.
So through you, Chair, just to add to what the controller just mentioned, fundraising for an air condition is something that I think we have to start first to look at it to see whether first is it feasible. Are they fundraising for the fans, or they're expecting that we will do the central AC up to that? So we have to look at the feasibility of that before we agree to that raising the funds, because otherwise the committee will say we raise the funds and now it's not happening. So we always look at the possibility of that, and also what are the ongoing costs involved in that. So all those factors are considered, I think, before we can agree to say, okay, let's go ahead and do that.
Much appreciated. Yeah. So since this is on the floor, all those in favor of approval of this new fundraising policy? Yeah. Okay. So approved. We'll go on to, and thank you for that presentation, both of you. And we'll move on to 7.4, Educational Partnership Policy. So our legal counsel, you're queued up.
For you, Chair McDonald. I'm presenting the updated Educational Partnership Policy. The policy has been revised to align with the board's educational goals and to enhance the educational experience of students. The updated policy establishes a framework for engaging with educational partners in a way that benefits educational programs, aligns with the board's values of equity, inclusivity, and community engagement, as well as ensures mutual benefits for all parties involved. The policy introduces comprehensive guidelines to ensure that all partnerships must directly support and enhance the curriculum, contributing to student engagement, well-being, and learning opportunities. All partnerships must adhere to ethical standards, avoiding any association with entities that promote harmful products or engage in unethical practices. This ensures a safe and supportive environment for the students. Provisions have been added to prevent conflicts of interest by requiring full disclosure of any relationships between board staff and potential partners. This ensures that decisions are made in the best interest of the board's educational objectives. The policy prohibits commercial exploitation and prioritizes education and student welfare by selecting partnerships. These partnerships are designed to bring additional resources and opportunities to PDSB schools, offering students access to broader educational tools. They also foster stronger connections between PDSB schools and the community, enhancing students' learning environments and preparing them for future challenges. Approving this policy will formalize the board's approach to educational partnerships, providing clear and consistent guidelines to attract reputable and beneficial partners. It demonstrates the board's stance in managing these relationships transparently and ethically, which is crucial for maintaining public trust and accountability. The revision of this policy involved an extensive review of similar policies across other school boards and incorporated feedback from our internal departments. I am joined by Bernadette Smith, Superintendent of Innovation and Research. We are prepared to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, so Superintendent Smith is not going to be talking. She's just available for questions. Okay. So let's put this on the floor. I'm going to have Trustee Benjamin put on the floor, seconded by Trustee Clark. Now that it's on the floor, do we have any questions or comments about the educational partnership policy? Yes, Trustee Davies.
No, Trustee Clark is online.
Trustee Clark, yes, you have a question. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, through you, Chair. Refresh my memory, but is there a mention of partners being able to mark to place their logo on is there something preventing them a partner from marketing within whatever they've donated or that type of thing? Because I believe last year something like this came up and we talked about how that was not a great way to go. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. And through you, Chair, the purpose of the partnership is really to work together in order to provide the various opportunities for our students. And we have many partners actually within the districts that are working with various schools, with departments and so on. And we do not encourage the use of logos. In fact, an example is recently with Apple, for instance. We work very closely with Apple, and there's many consultants that are working across schools with various larger initiatives as well. And it was made very clear to them and with us through their partnership that there's not going to be any logos displayed in any schools to indicate that partnership. Really, we're all benefiting from one another. And so we do not need to then broadcast through the use of those logos that partnership is existing.
Okay, thank you for that. That's good news. Thank you.
Let me just see. We have potentially. I'm going to ask this one question. So let's say we have a school event bringing the community together, and someone wants to do a partnership by donating some money or something. But in that partnership, they go, okay, at that event, I want to have some display. That goes kind of opposite to this idea what we're hearing about now, if I understand.
And there's going to be, and thank you for the question through you, Chair. There's going to be different forms of partnerships. So what we're talking about with this policy is larger partnerships where we're developing also MOUs, for instance, memorandums of understanding in terms of the ways that we work. And so if there is a partner that comes in and let's say they have a table at a display. So for instance, in a recent STEAM challenge, right? We've got Let's Talk Science, one of our partners, including even recently with the Land Rover, right? So Let's Talk Science was there. They were supporting that school with that initiative. And so they come and they may have a display which has their logo at that time to indicate who they are, but then it doesn't remain in the school to say that this initiative was in partnership with this company or whatever it might be. It may be just as an indicator of who they are while they're there. At starting point coming up, we're going to have several of these partners there. They likely will have some recognition of who they are at the time to indicate their presence and where they are, but then it doesn't remain in any specific location. And as well as we're building these partnerships, we'll be working through legal and governance services to determine, is this something that is going to be, the contractual terms are amendable in terms of what it is that we are doing moving forward and so on. So it will go through a lot of vetting in terms of the partners. And also just to mention, and it's also within that report, what kind of information gathering does the company or partner, whether it be educational partner, industry partner, what information are they gathering? And so when we recognize that there is going to be any sort of information that's going to be gathered, they will also have to be vetted through other processes, including external research reviews, so that we're very clear in terms of what information will be shared, and of course, ensuring the privacy and protection of students when we enter into any sort of partnerships that are collecting that information, if that helps.
And it does. So that, you're talking more board-wide initiatives, but what if it's a school-based initiative? And let's say it's a business, some, let's say, food purveyor, let's say is pretty, wants to donate at a fair of some sort at school, and does that, but he may have a tent up with stuff, but then they start giving out their call me for, XYZ, all these pamphlets out. Would that go against that?
Yeah, and it would, and that would be, and hence the reason why we needed this policy, in order for there to be clarity, especially for principals and managers, in order to monitor how the partnerships are developing and evolving. And that comfort level might be established through the relationships that are built between different partners. But we have this policy now as a third point, so that we can have this as reference, and principals can use this in order to enforce the need for that privacy as well, and for the sharing of information.
Awesome. That's clear for me. Any other questions? I really appreciate the response. Okay, then we'll go to a vote. So receipt of the new policy, educational partnership policy. All those in favor?
Chair McDonald, we have a hand up from Trustee Cole.
I thought that was a leftover hand, Trustee Cole?
Sorry, I put up my hand at the last minute, but just to what you were saying, Brad, if the principal says I'm making monetary value, so this one particular company is donating to be at the school, and the principal wants them to be there, is that still not okay?
And through you, Chair, I might defer to Tanya.
Through you, Chair. So whenever there is activity at the school, so absolutely the principal looks at the policy. Now in the policy, the first thing is there's criteria what kind of organization we want to be involved with. First of all, there's criteria, because there's certain things that organizations, even though they give us money, we would not want to be involved with. So that's the first step. We also look at what gains, whether again, depending on what the organization is, in terms of gains, is it who's getting the gain and what kind of gains they're getting. And we also advise the principal to consult with the superintendent whenever there's a doubt, especially when they're doing something in terms of organizations, especially if they're leaving something. So and again, if it's a monetary thing, there is usually a finance support officer that's involved with the school that they can also get counsel from in a transaction that's out of their regular. So usually principals will reach out to finance support officers if there's a transaction that they typically don't have.
That answer your question, Trustee Cole?
It's more clear now, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, and now we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of approval of this new policy? I see that. So passed. So we're going to go on to 7.5, active and sustainable school transportation charter. And this has been before us before, and we'll be bringing this. So Superintendent Hoppy, are you the one that's going to be talking to this? Okay, so with our coordinating principal, Jim Brooks. Okay.
So thank you, and through you, Chair. It is my pleasure to introduce coordinating principal Jim Brooks, who will be speaking about the proposed adoption of an active and sustainable school transportation charter.
Thank you. And through you, Chair. Tonight we are presenting the proposed adoption of active and sustainable school transportation charter for approval by the Board of Trustees. This recommendation comes from a collaborative effort by multiple departments within the Peel District School Board. Before we delve into the presentation, I'd like to highlight key points of the charter and the comprehensive analysis that was conducted. An active and sustainable school transportation charter promotes active transportation, referring to human-powered forms of transport. It includes walking, cycling, skateboarding, scootering, and mobility devices, as well as sustainable transportation, encouraging the use of school buses and public transportation. Community consultations concluded with 82% of families in favor of adopting the charter. This demonstrates strong community support and alignment with family values and expectations. The financial analysis confirms that existing budgets can cover the initiatives proposed in the charter. The active and sustainable school transportation charter embodies key principles, including accessibility, equity, health and well-being, activity and learning, safety, environmental sustainability, and community cohesion and vitality. This charter aims to formalize PDSB's commitment to active and sustainable travel, reflecting our dedication to improving student health and well-being, reducing environmental impact, and fostering community cohesion. During the development of the charter, input was gathered from various departments such as curriculum instruction and assessment, energy and sustainability, maintenance services, design and construction, planning, equity, and safe and caring. This thorough assessment provided a comprehensive view of the potential benefits and challenges. The feasibility study highlights several benefits, such as promotes physical and mental well-being, reduces carbon footprint, and strengthens relationships and community vitality. The active and sustainable school transportation charter aligns with key policies and initiatives, such as the Ministry of Education's daily physical activity mandate, PDSB's Eco Skills program, and the PDSB multi-year accessibility plan with a particular focus on environmental sustainability. We recommend that the Board of Trustees adopt the active and sustainable school transportation charter as outlined in Appendix 1. Next steps would include develop a detailed action plan outlining tasks, timelines, and objectives for implementing the charter initiatives, secure necessary resources, including finance allocations, training, and infrastructure. The financial analysis confirms that existing budgets can cover the initiatives proposed in the charter. We will engage with students, families, community members, and staff to foster collaboration and support, and collaborate with PDSB's communications team to develop a strategy to enhance awareness and participation. By adopting the active and sustainable school transportation charter, the PDSB can significantly contribute to the health, well-being, and sustainability of our community. We are committed to ensuring that every student has equitable access to safe and sustainable transportation options. We are happy to respond to any questions at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. So let's put this on the floor. I'm going to put Trustee Benjamin and Trustee Clark second that. And do I have any questions? That's Trustee Davies.
Yes. Thank you so much for this report. I'm on the Brampton School Traffic Safety Committee for the City of Brampton, and I do active studies at a lot of our schools, and I've seen some absolutely horrific things that could become liabilities to this board. So I just wanted to put that out there, that any costs associated with trying to implement this can definitely be offset by any potential lawsuits, litigation for acts of vehicular carnage that happens on our schools on a daily basis. Just wanted to sort of throw that out there for the trustees.
Thank you. Trustee Benjamin.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm also on the committee for the Peelschools, active rules, whatever it is. I'm still trying to remember that. We had a very long, committee meeting last, I think 2-3 weeks ago. And all the organizations that you talked were there, representatives were there. Everybody was very enthusiastic, and I'm happy to be part of the committee because a lot of work is being done. But how much does it translate into, as Trustee Davis points out, whether our parents are following the rules, whether our students really want to do it, and whether, and I would like to, because I have personal experience of going to certain schools in the morning, principals and the staff, they are there directing students and parents, but some of our parents are very aggressive. So that's one of the things which puts you off, like when you're doing so much work. So that's part of it. The second thing is, yes, they don't follow rules of the road, right? But at the same time, we can do a lot of things. And I read an article about how in Kingston, they have offered free bus passes to high school students who can use the public transport, which is mentioned here. And even after they graduate, these students continue to use public transport. So it's a matter of education. That's one thing which we could try, at least at high school levels. The second thing is regarding there was a question of bike racks, biking and all those kind of things. The safety of those bikes or mopeds or whatever they bring in, where do they put it? So some schools have bike racks. The Peel region is offering money for bike racks, but not many. So that's another problem. And I have seen how parents, once the weather changed, parents of very young students are bringing the little bikes, just to pick up the kids, and then they use it. So that is a very positive thing. But I'm all for this, and I think we need to put more effort into trying to promote active travel.
Thank you for the question and through you, Chair. So in response to the first two items that you raised, through the adoption of this charter and hence the recommendation, one of the things as was stated, we'd be able to, through our communications team, be able to provide greater awareness. So that way, many of the efforts that do exist can be further promoted, and therefore we now can facilitate the change of attitude amongst our parents who are driving, and just also with our students to then recognize that there are other healthier and more active modes of transportation that allow them to still be able to get to school safely. In terms of the bike rack specifically, I'll hand over to Coordinator Principal Brooks to respond to that.
So as part of our comprehensive analysis to determine if this was feasible for the board, maintenance services and other members of the team identified that they already have an existing plan to ensure that there's adequate bike rack storage at each of the schools. So they do have a long-term plan to ensure that each site is revisited at a certain time. And if there's repairs needed or additional costs associated with that, that's part of their budgets. You understand?
Thank you.
Trustee Clark, you have a hand up for a question?
Yes. Okay. I realize this is just, we're just getting the ball rolling, but has there been any thought given to, my wife uses an electric scooter, so do we have something to facilitate the, schools having some batteries, like rechargeable batteries on hand, depending on how far somebody who needs a mobility device to get to school, if they choose to not use a car or a motor transportation. And my second question, I guess, are we ready to collaborate with the municipality on any issues concerning, traffic safety and the safety of students, the kiss and ride, and how it'll affect all that stuff? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Chair. So the answer to your first question, the charter is promoting human-powered modes of transportation and emphasizing that that is something that is where we'd be able to see the most gains in terms of the various benefits in terms of both health as well as being able to get to and from to schools, as outlined in the report. So in terms of providing batteries, that is not something that was within the scope of our report, and it's not something that the board is currently within the budget that was mentioned that we are able to manage and sustain. That was not something that was currently being pursued. So that would be something that would be falling outside of the scope of this particular charter. In terms of the second part to your question, we already do have many connections with our various municipalities that take place at a local level, and we already know that many of our principals already do engage through various means with different municipal opportunities that are provided. This charter would allow for a more centralized and concerted effort that can now be raised that would elevate the awareness for all parties involved, so parents and school students within all the various communities, to be able to have greater awareness around, again, the elements that are highlighted within the charter, and then also making sure that it changes people's behaviors around how they drive and or drop their students to and from school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Trustee Clark? Okay, thank you, Trustee Pomoli.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate this report and all the work that goes into it. We're very big fans of walking to school, even though we live uphill from my son's school, so it's a long, hot walk home right now. But I like to walk with them. So I know that at this stage for students up to grade 8, we provide courtesy busing if there are any parts of the route that make it unsafe for students to cross. So if there's a particular intersection or any challenges on the way, even if they would be otherwise within a walking distance, we do have that available. But I understand that that's not something that we provide at the secondary level, despite the considerable distance that our secondary students have to walk before they would be eligible for busing. I was wondering if there's any mechanism for requesting safety audits for walking distances, because we do have a considerable distance that our secondary students are expected to walk. As I said, we love walking. We're big walkers in our house. But we do, I think, recognizing that we have increasingly busy streets and a lot of accidents happening in Mississauga and Brampton, maybe less so in Caledon, but recognizing what our streets look like sometimes, if that's something that could be something that's looked at to ensure that all of our students have a safe path to get to school. And then if it's not possible for us to be providing the buses, if we could be looking at opportunities to coordinate with the city for more affordable bus passes, because at this point, for example, in Mississauga, a month bus transit is $1,000, or sorry, for a year of monthly bus passes, it's $1,000. So for students to get safely to their secondary schools, if they don't have to safe walk to school, it's going to cost $1,000 for public school. And I think that's something that we have to be considering, that right now, that's not necessarily something that we're maybe doing as well as we could. So it's a couple things. Is there a mechanism for a safety audit? Is that something we could be doing? And then is there something that we could be doing to work together with our municipal partners to help ensure that we do have safe paths?
Thank you for the questions, and through you, Chair. So in terms of something about the safety audit, that is something that can be done. And if the trustees adopt this charter as the recommendation, that is again something that can be highlighted in terms of the action that individual local schools specific to their area would be able to engage in. Again, we could draw greater attention to as a coordinated effort across the board. They are already existing mechanisms to be able to engage in that safety audit. So it does not require the charter in order for schools to be able to engage in an audit of that nature. But again, engaging in, if this charter was adopted, engaging one could elevate the profile. In terms of the second question around transportation and working with the municipalities to be able to lower the cost, again, that is something that we could look into, definitely. But again, in terms of the specifics of this particular charter, was not within that scope of the charter. But can we look to be able to have that conversation and see what it could yield? Yes, we can always engage in that type of a conversation.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Seeing, trustee Cole, do you have a question?
No, it's just.
Leftover hand?
It's probably left over. I'll take it down.
Thank you. So seeing no,
No.
okay, so it's another, what's that red dot?
No, it's a red dot is always there.
Oh, that's a recording dot. I apologize, trustee Cole, that the red dot was you were asking questions.
So your hand's up now.
And it's hard to see when it's on the angle. You can see
Back
it
down.
straight on. Thank you, trustee Cole. That's my mistake. Okay, so this is on the floor for the active and sustainable school transportation chart approval of this. All those in favor? Okay, so passed, and we'll move on to the next item. This is our last approval item. It's our regional learning choices program, and Superintendent Hoppy, I assume you're going to be presenting this, please. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I will now invite coordinating principal Tara Campbell of Student Success and Pathways to be able to present this.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Department is recommending for approval the revised regional learning choice programs policy attached as Appendix 1. The Peel Regional, the Peel School Board offers regional learning choice programs, RLCPs, which are specialized programs available to students via an application process within and beyond the homeschool boundary in the Peel region. The Regional Learning Choices Program policy was revised in consultation with the RLCP Steering Committee, School Administration, Legal and Governance Services, the PSB staff, students, families, and the broader community. The revised Regional Learning Choices Program policy aims to ensure that all processes connected to the RLCPs are transparent and uphold a commitment to interrupting anti-Black racism and anti-Indigenous racism. Additionally, it directs intentional actions to address the ongoing disproportionalities in student participation in RLCPs as reported by the annual Equity Accountability Report Cards. Changes to the policy include clear purpose to provide guidelines for the administration and monitoring of the RLCPs, exclusively supporting home schools that provide students with a wide variety of programming leading to all post-secondary destinations, promotion of equity of opportunity and access for students through equitable, transparent, and inclusive educational practices that are designed to address disproportionalities and increase opportunities for students that have historically been marginalized. There will be a regular annual review of regional learning choice programs by the Regional Learning Choice Steering Committee. The identification of roles and responsibilities of the Regional Learning Choice Program Steering Committee and school administrators, and transportation further to the June 10th, 2024 trustee decision. The provision of transportation will have a phased-in approach, starting with elementary RLCPs in September of 2024. Thanks for your time. We would be happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. We're going to put this on the floor. So I'm going to have trustee Clark put it on the floor and trustee Benjamin to second that. And who would like to ask the first question? Trustee Promoli, please proceed.
Thank you. I'm not on the committee, so I can't put anything on the floor or vote, or I'm just here. So thank you again for this report. There's so much incredible programming and learning happening in all of our programs in all of our schools. So I always appreciate all the work happening. So I'm just curious about whether there are any guidelines regarding the ratios of how many students are in regional programs at any of the schools versus how many students are there because it's their home school, to maintain regarding balance between how many are there for one program versus the other.
Through you, Chair. If I understand the question, so you're saying that students from their home school, how many of them are in the program?
No, sorry. So just to be clear, so if you have a school that that contains both the regional program and also has catchment students, if there are any guidelines regarding the ratios, and I ask because I have had some questions come my way where it seems that there are some schools where it's you don't really notice that there's like a division between one or the other, and then some schools where there may be a feeling that the regional program is a little bit more of the overwhelming presence of the school, and students who are there because of their homeschool, that's their only option because they have chosen to go through their homeschool program, and if if the dominant program is the regional program, then I'm curious if there are any guidelines or
Yes,
recommendations.
yes, thank you. Thank you for the question, through you, Chair. And we choose our number of students that are in the regional program based on planning. So the planning department every year meets and they look at how many students will be accepted into the regional program with the idea that we will never fill the regional program to a point where local students are being pushed out. So they look at the number, look at projections, they look at how many students they want to accept in the regional program, knowing that there has to be room for the local kids. So they will decrease programs, they will decrease the number of kids being accepted, decrease the number of offers for regional kids in order to make room for the local kids. And that's always the case. And that's done on a yearly basis where they look at that. Numbers don't tend to change much year over year, but every year there is an audit done by planning. And on the other side, if a school is, if the local programs are shrinking in number, schools may add more regional spots in order to offset that as well.
So through you, Chair, you may find that the ratio may tip over so that you may have more students who are there for the regional program and fewer who are there because it's their home school.
That could be the case. It's rare. I don't know that that's the case anywhere right now. But that if a school is shrinking to the point where there's very, very few local kids, that could be an eventuality, yes.
Okay.
In the south, below QEW, a lot of our schools are filled with regional programs to keep the population of students. Green Clay would be one if you wanted to put that's 16 Fringe. So I don't know if that's a regional or not, but there's others. There is obviously disparity in ratios. Even in French immersion, you get very similar. Some of the southern schools, very little English component, which makes it very difficult to thrive in an English in a community. So these are concerns, and I understand them, but at the same time, of course, with we want to fill schools, so we don't close them too. So it's a very complicated balance. And I know our great team do it, and as a trustee, been dealing with them, and I get the calls and meetings and all that stuff. But anyway, I'll hand it over to you, Superintendent, to alter 2 cents.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I was going to reiterate the last portion that you just mentioned, that this is something when you take a look at, in many instances, at the onset of the development of these regional learner choice programs, that was one of the reasons why they were designed in the manner that they were, to be able to address some of the concerns for some schools that had lower enrollment. Programs that thrive in many instances, and so you do see that disproportionate number in depending on the school and the location. But to reiterate the point that was made by Coordinator Principal Camel, this is something that is reviewed on an annual basis, so that way local students are not left without an opportunity to be able to attend their homes.
Yeah, and just one more through you, Chair, and I'd be wary of the possibility that not that students would be able to attend their local homeschool, but that they would be attending their local homeschool and they would be losing out on opportunities because they would no longer because their program wouldn't be prioritized, if that makes sense, right? If the regional program would become such a dominant program within the school that that the opportunities for the regional program may overshadow the opportunities for students who are there because it is their home school. And so I think that is something that we need to be aware of. The vast majority of our students go through their home schools. That is what we do, and we do it very, very well. And so, we have a small number of students who go through the regional programs. But again, if students are at the school because it's their home school, they don't have the opportunity to go choose another homeschool. They go to the closest school for them that we have designated, or to whichever one we have designated for them. And if we have placed them at a school where there's a very popular regional program and that has sort of overtaken the atmosphere environment of the school, I would be worried that we are putting them at a disadvantage. And I just wanted to make sure that we were doing to make sure that we're keeping every program strong for every student. So that's my concern.
Thank you, through the Chair. a valid concern and one that we are very much aware of. One of the things that, and this was brought through committee previously, one of the things that we are looking at is making sure that as we look to the future of our regional learning choice programs, that we are looking to be able to offset that type of a situation where it occurs to allow for opportunities for students to be able to attend their home school. So then that way, greater opportunities through other programs that are available, specifically our specialist high skills major programs and our explore high skills programs that also provide wonderful opportunities for students to be able to, again, attend their home school and still be able to explore various areas of interest are things that we're also promoting within our regional learning choice program offerings as a whole. So this is something that we are aware of. It is something that we do keep an eye out for, and it is something that we are working actively to program for. So that way, homeschool students attending their home school will have as many opportunities and mitigate what you already identified.
And just to add, elementary is different than high school, and the problems in small declining enrollments in the South. We can't even offer the courses to go to university. And so I have a lot of challenges with that. So bringing more kids in who will then take those same courses, because, you do have to have core courses, but you also have regional kind of, promoted courses. That does provide actually more opportunity for the local students, because if I only had a school of 200 students, I couldn't offer any program. And so it's a balance, and a very complicated balance. And I'm here. I'll always have our annual APD meetings, and we have our review meetings, and we go through that in the South. But it is a challenge that we want to provide regional programs, which are some great ones. But we also want to support our local community and keep schools open too, because if we don't, then they're going to be busing to a school, and high schools are problematic to rebuild after they're closed. So, hope that helps. Any other questions, comments? It's on the floor, so I'm going to put this to a vote. All those in favor? So be it passed, the new regional learning choices program is carried. So now we're going to go on to our 3 information items. So this is our student cell phone use in schools, from a motion from yours truly. So I assume is Michelle Stubby, going to be presenting this to superintendent, or sorry, LaShawn?
It'll be Superintendent Smith in collaboration with Superintendent Stubby.
Okay, Superintendent Smith, sorry. I hand it over to you, Superintendent Smith.
Okay, thank you so much, and through you, Chair and trustees of the board. So the student cell phone use in schools report provides an overview of student cell phone use in the Peel District School Board schools in response to the trustee motion. We provided a summary of the Ontario Ministry of Education's new measures to restrict cell phone usage during instructional time and PDSB's current approaches and policies regarding student cell phone use. The document also highlights the potential benefits and drawbacks of cell phone use in classrooms, including their role in enhancing educational experiences and the risks they pose, such as distraction and cyberbullying. The report concludes with PDSB's ongoing efforts to develop a student cell phone use policy in accordance with PPM 128 requirements, which will be recommended for board approval at a future governance and policy committee meeting. This policy aims to balance the need for digital literacy and innovation in learning with the importance of maintaining a focused and respectful learning atmosphere. On April 28, 2024, PPM 128, the Provincial Code of Conduct and School Boards of Conduct was updated for implementation on September 1st, 2024. In order to ensure PDSB compliance, the PDSB will develop a policy regarding student cell phone use in schools, focusing on use during instructional time with explicit teacher permission and storage of the device when not in use. We will also develop an operating procedure to enforce appropriate student cell phone use in schools, including progressive supports for students to ensure compliance with expectations and best practices for educators on responsible use of technology. We'll also develop a communication plan to families and students about the new requirements, update the code of conduct to reflect these changes as well, and create grade appropriate lessons to support student cell phone expectations, and responsible use. And so I'm joined with my colleague Superintendent Michelle Stubbins. We're happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Okay, let's put this on the floor. Start with Trustee Benjamin, and Trustee Clark will second that. Do we have any comments or questions around this? Okay, I'm going to talk then. First of all, thank you very much for bringing this to you. I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but it seems after my starting of this motion, everyone has fallen in place, the government, but also I was just flying in from Alberta this morning, and I'll use what the media say. Alberta is banning cell phones K-12. Los Angeles, second largest school board in America, is banning cell phones. That's their words, not mine. And so and then the social media, as well as the media, has been adopting how challenging and difficult cell phones are for our students from a mental perspective, and how this whole process to remove cell phones from a distraction to also the very, as we've heard, another trustee and I were attended, and other trustees have listened to presenters talk about the terrible things that can happen with the cell phone technology, and how kids in grade 3 who are having access to social media, and it goes on. And certainly I've mentioned at the board meeting, obviously the book by Jonathan Haidt, I forget the title at this moment. I have it in my kitchen.
Anxious Generation.
Sorry?
Anxious Generation. Anxious Generation.
Anxious Generation. Thank you, Trustee Pomola. So it's clear that we have, stuff, and part of our goal, a strategic goal, is safety and mental well-being. And I think this is really comes in line with that. So I want to thank you for the report, and I thank things. But the PPM says on September 2024, we must have this all figured out. But you've also mentioned, we're going to have a policy. Well, we're not going to have a policy in place by September 2024. So how are we going to meet the PPM without having a policy or operating procedure?
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps Superintendent Smith, I can answer the question. Trustee McDonald, the PPM also requires consultation for community, and we are right in the midst of consultation at this point. So pending, pending some further conversations, it is my belief that we will be ready with a policy and an operating procedure around cell phones. But of course, we need to ensure consultation has been done first.
Okay, if you're going to say you're going to do it by start of school this September, I'm really happy. I think it's really important. You don't change rules halfway through a school. It's best to start off day one with any form of school code conduct, which this will now be part of. It's very good to have that first day conversation with all students, and so they can then follow through that through the rest of the year. And it helps our education and men and staff and teachers, everyone in the whole process, because everyone will be involved in managing this process from usage to not usage being allowed. I even heard a comment from a parent that they went into a school and they saw kids all in their classrooms with earphones on, and and they were obviously not listening to the instruction. And I'm going, wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Not in one of our schools, by the way. I found that strange. But anyway, I want to thank you very much again for the report. Any other comments? Yeah, Trustee Benjamin, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. It's just no questions, just a comment. I'd like to thank Chair Brad McDonald for bringing this motion, because it is very, very important that we get on it and get it implemented as soon as possible. And I have this article by Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy from the US. It came in our OPSBA report, and he is all for it, saying it's high time we did it, because when cars were invented, they had airbags and, seats for kids. And when you have tobacco products, they say it's dangerous. Alcohol says it's dangerous. But what about this, which creates so much of mental health issues for all generations? So it's required. And just to share, just a couple of days ago, I was at Barrendale Public School celebrating its 25th, anniversary, and the principal who opened the school was there. And he talked to the kids and he said, do you know the difference between then and now? He just took his cell phone and said, this. And he asked, how many of you have cell phones? And that's a K to 5 school. Almost every kid raised their hand. And the principal was shocked. She said, oh my goodness, everybody has cell phones. So you can't take it away from them. So my only question is, when you are putting all these policies in place and, you're going to get a lot of pushback from the kids. And how are we going to deal with it? So that's very, very important. Because even at home, parents will tell you, oh, put away the cell phones. Kids don't do it. They're very reluctant to do that. So it's very important that we have, the policies in place to deal with these kind of situations. Definitely is going to bring up behaviors. Thank you.
So, who would like to respond to that?
There's no need to respond.
No response? We'll just wait for how it works. It's
Yeah.
just it's gonna be a challenge and how they figure out the enforcement. I think school, I'm just predicting, students follow, our teachers and staff. But as a parent, I know how hard it is. It's funny, a teacher can get my son to do
Let me
something.
tell
but I
you,
couldn't.
I go for a walk to Square One, and you have policemen outside, Harry Rosen and Tiffany's and all that. They're supposed to be on duty, but they have their cell phones. You're on the street, you have your cell phones. So when you're on duty, are you supposed to have that?
Very pervasive. Anyway, sorry, Trustee Kamala.
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you, Chair, for your work on this. I know you and I have both, we've spent a lot of time talking about this and hearing a lot about it. And I want to thank staff for your work on this too, because I know that we have a big challenge ahead of us to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for our students and for our staff who are working with our students to try and help them do the best they can. This is a huge challenge. So many of our students have cell phones. Surprisingly large number of young students have cell phones. I was shocked to learn how many third graders are on Snapchat. I don't know why they're on Snapchat because they're not legally supposed to be. But here we are. We have a lot of kids who are on social media, who don't know how to manage it, who don't understand the permanency of it, and anything that we can do to make sure that we are putting policies in place that are going to help our schools function as well as possible and help our kids get the best that they can out of our day that we have with them. It's going to make a huge difference. And I know that we've seen just the added level of challenge that a cell phone adds to any challenges that we already have in a school. Anytime that anyone's in a disagreement or any kind of conflict and a cell phone appears, it just adds one more piece of a big problem to it. So I really appreciate the work that's happening here. It's bigger than just us, but anything that we can do within the school board to try and help play our part is huge. And I do also want to thank any of our schools who are already working really hard on this. And I know everyone's dealing with this challenge in their own way. I've seen some really great examples in some of the schools that I represent where they have been working really hard to make sure that cell phones are away for the day. And it's tough, but it can be done. I'm so impressed to see the way that they have enacted these policies on their own, and it has really helped to make things operate a lot more smoothly. The more that we can solidify that as a board and help just have their backs, I think it's going to make a really big difference for our board as a whole. And so I really appreciate the work that you're all doing to help make sure that our incredible staff can do the great work that they're doing with our students already. So thank you everybody, and let's get going for a great September.
Yeah. Thank you, Trustee Promoli. So seeing no other questions online, I'm going to put this to a vote. All those in receipt of this report, so passed. We'll move on to the next item, 7.8. So we're going to be the trustee contact information. We're going to have our senior board reporter, Nicole Fernandez, and LaShawn Murray, our policy analyst, up to present this for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Chair. In January 2024, a resolution was passed by the Board of Trustees requiring individual Peel schools websites to list trustees as primary and secondary contacts for schools. In response, we developed a trustee contact information on websites procedure, which was approved by Directors Council in March of 2024 and is appended to the report. The procedure indicates that the primary trustee is the trustee in whose municipal ward the school is physically located. The secondary trustee or trustees are trustees for the school enrollment area or the school boundary. As required by the board resolution, the procedure outlines the roles and responsibilities of primary and secondary trustees. You will note that one of the reference documents is MFIPA. And it is important for trustees to keep in mind that they should get verbal consent of the parent or member of the public to share their information or details of their concern with the primary or secondary trustee as appropriate. PDSB staff are currently updating the website to operationalize the trustee contact information procedure. The site will be ready for the 2024-2025 school year, and there is a mock-up of one of the school pages provided in the report. Tonight, I am joined by Board Reporter Nicole Fernandez and the Senior Manager of Communications, Michelle Green, to respond to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Trustee Clark, you want to put that on the floor? Thank you. And Trustee Benjamin seconded. Any questions or comments? Trustee Vermoli?
Yeah, just one quick question. I wondered if we could make exceptions for Judith Nyman and West Credit because they don't have catchment areas. Because all trustees for Mississauga represent West Credit and all trustees for Brampton represent Judith Nyman. Because they don't, it's just students from the entire city who represent that. Because at this point, looking at West Credit, because West Credit is located in Ward 9, it only lists Jeff Clark, and I'm sure Jeff is quite active at West Credit, but I know I'm at West Credit a lot, so, and I get a lot of calls from West Credit. So I don't know if that's one change that we can make simply just because there is no catchment for West Credit and Judith Nyman.
Same for parcel.
That means, and I suppose also for Applewood Acres. Yeah.
I think it's because these are, what you call it, West Credit and the vocational schools. Is that why you have all the Mississauga or Brampton trustees under those schools?
Associate Director.
Through you, Chair. If the thinking is that way, the same will then apply for the arts program, Athra and Mayfield. But I think the intent here is the primary trustees where the based on the location of the of that facility.
Right.
That's how all of the schools will be. That's how the school websites will list the trustees where the facility is located. The trustee of that area will be the primary trustee, and all the other trustees will be listed as secondary trustees who are feeding into the kids whom their areas are feeding into this.
So in those instances, it'll just be a longer list of trustees as secondary trustees.
Right. Okay. Sometimes it's not student related, it's building completed and.
Or maybe what you want.
Oh, sorry. I can imagine sometimes it's not like student related, it's facilities related or that sort of thing. So therefore that trustee in that area will have access to superintendent, facilities manager, all that stuff. It's a lot of.
Correct, when we do APDs or all that stuff. So I think I understand your perspective, but they're all listed next to,
We're not yet.
not yet, but we will be.
Yeah.
We will be all there in those schools that you listed now, their regional program. So that's great. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of receipt of this trustee contact information procedure? Okay. Passed, and we'll go on to the last item. So is Lisa Hart online? Yes, we have. Yes. Lisa Hart, Superintendent. You're going to be talking about the days of significant calendar and review, the phase 2 recognition calendar.
So thank you, and through you, Chair McDonald. This report provides an overview and update on the Phase 2 review of the Days of Significance calendar procedure in response to Resolution 24-113 approved by the Board at the April 17th, 2024 Board meeting. Phase 2 has resulted in a newly developed recognition calendar. The purpose of this calendar is to continue to promote belonging in learning spaces. The recognized months and days in this revised calendar will support the various efforts in schools and workplaces to enhance student and staff experiences within their learning and working environments. The recognition calendar aligns with the vision of the Peel District School Board's new multi-year strategic plan. The recognition calendar now consists of 5 categories: Heritage and Awareness Months, Board and Staff Recognition Days, Statutory Holidays, Indigenous Education, and External Calendars. The newly developed recognition calendar creates a more streamlined approach that allows schools to be more culturally responsive to the needs of their communities by fostering and sustaining identity-affirming teaching and learning spaces. It also offers administrators the flexibility and capacity to be responsive to their unique and diverse communities. We remain deeply committed to demonstrating and implementing inclusive and equitable practices and learning and working environments. This concludes the presentation of the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, I'll put this on the floor. Trustee Benjamin puts on the floor, seconded by Trustee Clark. Any questions or comments before we start? None? Well, I'll say thank you. There's been a lot of work going into this. The scan that you did of all the other boards to find out their status and then present a solution that I think is very simple to understand the processes in which the calendars have been created, and then allow the staff and students and community to be supported in this in our school board and in our education process. So I want to thank the staff, everyone. I don't want to say everyone's name because I know I'll miss some. So thank you all. I know it's been a lot of work, and it's much appreciated. Any other comments before we? Yes, Trustee Cremoli.
Yeah, through you, Chair, I'd like to echo your sentiments and say thank you. I know none of this has been easy, and you know, yeah, we've just got such an incredible community and a lot of voices that we need to continue to listen to. And I appreciate, you know, the great amount of work that has gone into this and the care that's gone into it. And I also wanted to say that I appreciate that you have included that, you know, that you slimmed down the calendar to make it simpler for our schools, but also that you added the external calendars to give schools the opportunity to explore things that are happening, you know, what Ontario recognizes, what Canada recognizes, what the UN recognizes, and that each of those, and when I went through them, when you go through those lists, they also come with information and resources. And I think that's such a big help when people are trying to figure out, you know, what some of these things are, and to have that background and that information. And I think that's so helpful. So, you know, none of this is simple, but I really appreciate the care here. And I know that, you know, nothing is ever done the work that we do at this board. And it's always going to be an ongoing exercise in listening to our community. And I just wanted to say thank you for the care that you took in hearing our community. And I know that's something that will continue as we move forward. So thank you for your hard work here.
Trustee Benjamin.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'd like to thank Superintendent Hart and her team for all the work that you put in. And this is a great educational tool, you know, for equity, diversity, and inclusion policy, because at one glance you get so much of information, not only for, you know, our educational purpose, like for school purpose, but even parents and the community can learn a lot about this. So thank you very much. That's all from me.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Hart. So this is receipt of for information only. So
Jeff Clark has a question.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Clark, please.
Yes, thank you, through you, Chair. Yeah, I want to echo everyone's previous comments. This could not have been easy and may even have been, made some people feel a little unsafe. I realize that, one of the questions, was extremely unsettling for two different communities, and it illustrates to me pretty loudly how two different groups of people have a completely opposite experience of the same events. And I hope we can all reach out to all those communities with that understanding, and hopefully we can keep the conversation going. We can't solve every problem, but we can help people come to their own something that's good for them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Clark. So all those in receipt of this report, so passed. So we'll go on to, I guess we're back to the main agenda. So we're finished our last report. So it's trustee motions of consideration, which we have none. We have no communications, no trustees notice of motion. Before we go to adjournment, I just want to thank, first of all, Trustee Lucas Alves for joining us remotely from Portugal to get the meeting started. And then Trustee, our Chair, Green, and Vice Chair Singh for maintaining quorum for this meeting. It's a busy time. We're in graduations. I missed a graduation tonight. Others are at graduations. So I really want to thank everyone. And since it's the last of the Governance Policy Committee meeting for this school year, I just want to thank all the great work that's been done on this committee, all the hard work, and you have a well-deserved summer that I hope you really have fun, safe, and spend time with family in a cool place. Thank you. So who's going to put the motion to adjournment on the floor? Trustee Benjamin, second by Trustee Clark. All those in favor? The meeting has ended. Thank you. Adjourned.